I always told myself my life was perfect. Emily and I had this rhythm, this quiet stability that felt like home. Every morning, I'd pour my coffee, and she'd be humming in the kitchen like nothing could touch us. "You're up early again," she'd tease. "Someone has to make sure the world doesn't fall apart before breakfast," I said, grinning, trying to match her lightness. She laughed, that soft laugh that always made me feel like the luckiest man alive. "You're ridiculous." "Maybe," I admitted. "But you love it." "Maybe," she said, smirking, and I swore my chest tightened. It was simple. Comfortable. I wanted simple. Then there was Ryan. My best friend since college. I called him my brother sometimes, and I meant it. "Don't tell me you're late again," I joked as he slid into my car one morning, slamming the door behind him. "I can't help it," he said. "Traffic was hell, but I got donuts." He held up a bag like a peace offering. "Donuts fix everything, apparently," I laughed. "You're forgiven, for now." Ryan tossed one to me. "You look stressed, man. Work getting to you?" I shook my head, taking a bite. "Nah, it's nothing. Just the usual." But inside, I felt that constant little tug, that niggling thought I always ignored, that maybe I wasn't enough, that maybe I didn't do enough. "You sure?" Ryan asked. "You don't have to carry it all by yourself, you know." "I know." I tried to sound casual. I wanted him to drop it. "I've got it handled." But I never did. Not really. I always carried it alone because I thought that's what men like me were supposed to do. Responsible. Reliable. Loyal. "Emily's waiting at my place tonight," Ryan said, breaking the silence. "Wanna come over?" She said she's trying a new recipe. I froze for a split second. Maybe another time." "Come on, man. We're friends." "She's your friend too," he said, grinning, waving a hand like it was nothing. I laughed nervously. "Yeah, okay. Maybe." I didn't say anything else because I didn't want to sound controlling, but part of me stiffened. That tiny knot in my stomach I usually ignored started to grow. Emily was always the calm in my storm, the one I believed anchored me. But sometimes, I wondered if I relied on her too much. Like that night we sat on the couch, just the two of us. "You've been quiet all day," she said, handing me a glass of wine. "I've been fine," I muttered. "No, you haven't." She settled next to me, tucking her legs under her. "Talk to me. You don't have to carry everything alone." "I know," I said, but I didn't. I never knew how to unload without feeling weak. Instead, I smiled and let the tension sit between us. She probably sensed it. She always did. "You're holding back," she said softly. "I'm just tired," I lied. She didn't push further. She never pushed too hard, which was why I thought I could trust her completely. That trust was sacred to me, built over years, layer by layer. I didn't even notice the cracks forming, the small signs that maybe my life wasn't as perfect as I told myself. Then there were the subtle things. Ryan, always joking, always in my life, but sometimes too close. "You're letting her boss you around," he teased once while we played video games. "Don't let Emily make all the rules." "She's not making rules," I said. "She just cares." "Cares too much, maybe," Ryan said, smirking, picking up his controller. "You gotta stand your ground." I laughed, but his words stayed with me longer than I wanted. I brushed it off, but in the back of my mind, I felt a flicker of unease I couldn't name. I thought it was just paranoia. Everyone tells themselves that, right? Lunch breaks were another kind of calm. Ryan and I shared a booth at the little diner around the corner from our office. "So, how's married life treating you?" he asked, eyes sharp, playful. "Better than I deserve," I said, trying to be casual. "Emily's amazing." He raised an eyebrow. "Yeah? She ever, talk to you about other guys?" "What?" I laughed nervously. "Of course not. Just asking. You're too perfect, man. People want what you have." I shrugged, trying to let it slide. But the word stuck, lodged somewhere deep in my chest. Imperfect people always get what they want, I thought. Perfect people, people like me, shouldn't have to worry about betrayal. Some nights, I'd lie awake and think about everything, pretending I was strong. "I can't lose this," I whispered to the dark. "I can't lose them. Not Emily, not Ryan. I can't." But the truth was, I knew those fears were irrational. I believed loyalty was unshakable, that trust was the unbreakable bond between people who mattered. That belief was my life's foundation. I never questioned it, until little things started to niggle at me, the shared laughs I wasn't part of, the glances I didn't catch, the way Ryan sometimes lingered too long when Emily brought up her day. "You're thinking too much," Emily said one evening, interrupting my spiral. She sat next to me on the balcony, leaning her head against my shoulder. "You're imagining problems that don't exist." "Maybe," I muttered, staring at the city lights. "Maybe I am." "I know you. You're loyal to a fault," she said, pressing a kiss to my cheek. "But that's why I love you." I closed my eyes, letting her words soothe me. I wanted to believe her completely. I wanted to believe everything was as it should be. Ryan called that night. "Hey man, you alive?" "Yeah," I said, trying to sound normal. "Good. Emily told me she's making her special lasagna tomorrow. You coming over?" "I'll think about it," I said, even though part of me wanted to go. I didn't want to seem possessive. I didn't want to admit the unease I felt every time Ryan mentioned her. "You're paranoid," he laughed. "Relax, dude. We're friends." "Yeah," I said, but I wasn't sure anymore. I ended the call, my chest tight, and sat in silence. The apartment was quiet, Emily asleep, the city humming outside. I stared at the ceiling and whispered to myself, "I can't lose them. I just can't." And I meant it. I really did. I thought loyalty, trust, and love were enough to protect everything I had. Little did I know, that life I thought I had, the one I cherished, the one I trusted, was already starting to unravel. I never imagined the day I'd walk into a nightmare wearing my own skin. It started like any other morning, coffee, traffic, small talk, but something in the air felt heavier. I shrugged it off, telling myself it was stress, nothing more. I was wrong. Ryan called first. "Yo, you awake?" "Yeah," I said. "What's up?" "Just got here early. Thought I'd swing by." "You want company?" "Sure," I said, smiling into the phone, pretending everything was normal. I didn't know then that this call would mark the beginning of the end. When Ryan arrived, he looked off. Tense. Hesitant. Not his usual loud, joking self. He set down a box of donuts and tried to smile. "Morning," he said, voice too light. "Morning," I replied, taking a donut. "You okay? You sound weird." "I'm fine," he said, forcing it. "Just sleepy." Emily appeared from the kitchen, carrying a mug. "Hey," she said, her voice soft. "Good morning." "Morning," I said. Everything felt normal. Too normal. I smiled at her, tried to focus on the warmth of her eyes. Something in me nagged that it was the wrong focus. We all sat in silence for a moment. Then Ryan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and froze. Something in his expression made my stomach twist. "Everything okay?" I asked. Yeah, just a work message," he muttered, slipping it into his pocket. But his hand lingered there, too tight. Too tense. Emily looked at him, curious. "Who's texting you?" "Just someone from the office," Ryan said, shrugging. But I noticed the hesitation, the slight guilt hiding behind his smile. My chest started to tighten. Later that day, I came home early from work. I'd finished a report faster than expected, and something told me to check on things at home. I opened the door, and there it was. A whisper of movement. The smell of perfume not mine. And then, in the living room, the scene that broke me before I even understood it. Emily and Ryan. Together. Ryan. Emily stammered when she saw me. I froze. Words failed me. My coffee cup trembled in my hand, spilling a drop onto the floor. "Matt," Ryan said, stepping forward, but his voice sounded tiny, weak, pathetic even. "Stop," I said. My voice was flat. Cold. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. "Just stop." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "Matt, it's not." "Not what?" I asked. My throat hurt, but the words forced themselves out. "Not what, Emily?" "You're in our living room. With my best friend. With the man I trusted more than anyone in this world." Ryan opened his mouth, closed it again. I could see him searching for excuses, lies, anything. "It happened," he said finally. "It's not what it looks like." I laughed. Not a happy laugh. A dry, broken laugh. Not what it looks like. I dropped the coffee cup to the floor. It shattered. "Really? You both are sitting here, pretending like nothing's wrong, and you think not what it looks like makes it okay?" Emily's hands shook. I love you, Matt." But what?" I snapped. What could possibly justify this? Ryan tried again. I didn't mean for it to." "You didn't mean for it to?" I echoed, feeling my chest tighten, my stomach twist. "You didn't mean for it to happen, or you didn't mean to get caught?" Emily's voice cracked. "It's complicated." "Complicated?" I whispered, horror making my words sharp and brittle. "You think betrayal is complicated? You think lying and sleeping with the one person I trusted is complicated?" Ryan's jaw tightened. "Matt, No, Ryan. Don't. Just don't." I couldn't stand it. I turned away, tried to collect myself. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip the counter. I felt hollow. My mind raced, replaying every laugh, every conversation, every hug. All the trust, all the years, wasted. Emily stepped closer. "Matt, please. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you." "You never meant to hurt me," I repeated, voice low, trembling. "But you did. You've destroyed everything. And Ryan, you're supposed to be my brother. My friend. And yet here you are, the knife in my back." Ryan's eyes flickered with shame, guilt, maybe fear. I messed up. I didn't. Stop, I said again. My voice was firmer this time. I don't want to hear it. I don't want apologies. I don't want excuses. I just want you to leave. Both of you. Now. They hesitated, then slowly walked to the door. I didn't watch. I couldn't. I heard the door click shut behind them, and silence crashed down like a tidal wave. I sank to the couch, staring at the floor where the coffee cup lay in pieces. My mind was a storm. Shock. Anger. Betrayal. Disbelief. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break something. I wanted to disappear. Instead, I sat there, trembling, letting the tears burn my eyes. Later, I wandered to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and whispered to myself, how could they? My phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. Matt, please. I can explain. I stared at it. My hands tightened around the phone until my knuckles whitened. I didn't reply. I couldn't. My stomach was in knots. My chest ached. The world felt foreign, unsteady. I remembered all the small things I'd ignored, the whispered jokes when I wasn't looking, the sudden need to spend extra time together, the late-night texts I never asked about because I didn't want to admit I was scared. I had ignored every sign, convinced loyalty would protect me. I had been wrong. Emily had been my anchor, my comfort. Ryan had been my brother. Now, they were the storm, tearing through my life, leaving destruction in their wake. I tried to focus on work to distract myself, but every email, every phone call felt meaningless. I kept glancing at the door, half expecting them to walk back in, but they didn't. They never would. When night fell, I sat on the couch, staring at the ceiling, my body numb, my mind screaming. I trusted you, I whispered to the shadows. I trusted both of you. How could you? I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't stop thinking. Every laugh we shared, every moment I cherished, it all turned to ash in my mouth. I didn't cry anymore. Not really. I was beyond that. My heart felt heavy, deadened, like it had been replaced with stone. But beneath the stone, a spark lingered. Anger. Hurt. Betrayal. And something else. Something cold, calculating, and quiet. I didn't know it yet, but that spark was the beginning. The moment I realized that life as I knew it was gone. That the people I trusted most had stabbed me in the back. That my perfect life was a lie. And I would never forget it. After that day, everything changed. I couldn't look at Emily without seeing the betrayal etched into her eyes, and Ryan's face haunted me in every shadow. I came home, expecting comfort. There was none. I walked in and found the apartment silent, almost oppressively quiet. I sank onto the couch and stared at the ceiling. The coffee cup was still shattered on the floor, a reminder that nothing would ever feel normal again. My phone buzzed. A message from Ryan, Matt, please, we can talk. I stared at it, my thumb hovering over the screen. I didn't reply. Not yet. I couldn't. The words felt like knives. Later, Lena, my sister, called. Matt, you okay? I'm fine, I said, too quickly. You're not, she said. Her voice was sharp, loving, and infuriating all at once. I can hear it. Stop lying to yourself. I just need time, I muttered. Time isn't going to fix what's broken, she said firmly. You need to talk. To someone. Don't lock yourself in your head, Matt. That's what they want. I let out a shaky laugh. They? Who wants what? Emily and Ryan, she said without hesitation. They've taken everything you trusted. And you're sitting there, letting it eat you alive. Talk to me, damn it. I didn't answer right away. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about all the conversations, the laughter, the false sense of safety. I thought about Ryan calling me brother and Emily calling me love. All lies, all broken now. I trusted them, I whispered finally. I know, Lena said softly. And you're allowed to feel that. But don't let them win by letting this destroy you. I don't know what to do, I admitted. The words felt heavy, like admitting defeat. I can't stop thinking about it. Every time I close my eyes, I see them together. I hear their laughter in the apartment, in my head. It won't stop. You're alive, she said. You're still you. That's something. Start there. I hung up, but the knot in my stomach didn't loosen. I sat there until the apartment grew dark. No TV, no music, no distraction. Just the silence, and the echo of betrayal that refused to fade. Work offered no escape. I tried to focus, but every email felt meaningless. My hands hovered over the keyboard, my mind replaying every detail of that morning. I saw them, I heard them, I felt the weight of their lies pressing down on me. Mark, my coworker, noticed. He leaned over my cubicle. You okay, man? You've been off lately. I'm fine, I said, forcing a smile. Sure, he asked, skeptical. You don't have to deal with it alone, you know. I'm here if you need to talk. I shook my head. Thanks, Mark. Really. But it's personal. Yeah, I get it, he said softly. But don't bottle it up. It eats you alive, trust me. I nodded, but I couldn't speak. I wanted to scream, to yell at him, to tell him everything, but I swallowed it. That anger, that grief, it had nowhere to go but inside. Evenings were the worst. I walked through the apartment like a ghost. I opened the fridge, staring blankly. I tried to eat, but nothing tasted right. I couldn't sleep. Every creak, every shadow, made me tense. I called Ryan once, late at night. Why? I asked, my voice low and trembling. Why would you do this to me? There was silence. Then, Matt. I don't. My voice cracked. Just don't. I trusted you. I trusted you more than anyone. And you, I swallowed hard, my throat tight. You threw it all away. You threw me away. It wasn't supposed to happen, he said, voice shaking. I didn't mean. Didn't mean? I laughed bitterly. That's your excuse? You didn't mean to destroy my life? You didn't mean to ruin every memory I have of both of you? I'm sorry, Matt, he whispered. Sorry doesn't cut it, I said, dropping the phone. My hand shook as I set it on the table. Not anymore. Not ever. Emily tried later, timidly knocking on my door. Matt, can we talk? I don't think so, I said, voice hollow. Please. Just 5 minutes. I need to explain. Explain? I asked, incredulous. Explain how you chose him over me? How you chose him over everything we built together. It wasn't just him, she said, tears welling. It was. I don't know. I made a mistake. A mistake? I echoed, feeling my chest tighten. You call sleeping with my best friend a mistake? She stopped, words failing her. Save it, I said, voice breaking slightly. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. I don't want you in my life right now. She left, the door clicking softly behind her. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly, completely alone. That night, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. I whispered to myself, I trusted you. I trusted both of you. And now there's nothing left. Sleep came hours later, if it came at all. Dreams were haunted by laughter, voices, the smell of her perfume on his jacket. I woke up gasping, heart pounding, and stared at the ceiling. I started noticing the little things I'd ignored before. Ryan's phone disappearing from view when I entered the room. Emily's sudden need to spend time with friends without me. Little glances, little secrets, tiny betrayals I had convinced myself didn't matter. I was a fool. A blind fool. But even as anger and shame twisted inside me, there was a small, quiet spark. Something that refused to break entirely. A whisper in the chaos, this isn't over. Not yet. I didn't know what I would do with it, or how, or when. All I knew was that the betrayal had carved a hollow in my chest, but it had also lit a fire. One that burned quietly, patiently. The days blurred together. I walked through life numb. Emily avoided me. Ryan's texts stopped. Work became my only distraction, but even there, I couldn't escape the gnawing ache. I wanted answers. I wanted justice. I wanted revenge, but I didn't know if I had the strength. I was broken, but I wasn't gone. Not yet. And deep inside, beneath the pain and despair, I felt the first stirrings of something I hadn't felt in years, control. One day, I whispered to myself, they think they've won. They have no idea what's coming. And for the first time since that morning, the knot in my chest felt purposeful. I didn't know how long I sat in the apartment, staring at the city lights, trying to convince myself that the betrayal didn't change who I was. But it had. Every memory, every laugh, every touch, they were poisoned now. I was empty, angry, and alive in a way I hadn't expected. Ryan's texts had stopped. Emily hadn't tried contacting me again. The silence was suffocating, but also strangely clarifying. For the first time, I realized that I had a choice. I could crumble, let them destroy me, or I could fight. I picked up the phone and dialed Mark. Hey, I said when he answered. You sound different, he said. Everything okay? Not exactly, I admitted. Can we meet? Sure. Coffee? Yeah. Coffee. We met at the corner cafe, the one with the scratched wooden tables. I sat across from him, hands wrapped around a mug, staring into the steam as if it held answers. You look, he started, hesitated, then shrugged. Shattered. But not defeated. Weird combo. I don't feel defeated, I said. I feel awake. Mark raised an eyebrow. Awake how? I told him everything. As much as I could without vomiting the rawness of my anger into the table. About Emily. About Ryan. About the betrayal that cut me open and left me raw. And you're okay? He asked, skeptical. No, I admitted, voice low. I'm not okay. Not yet. But I can be. And I will be. I just need to figure out how. Mark leaned back. Good. Because here's the thing, they think they broke you. But you're alive, and alive is powerful. You just have to stop being the person who takes everything lying down. I don't want revenge, I said quickly. I don't want to be petty. Good, he said. Because revenge without control is weakness. What you need is strategy, patience, observation. Wait, learn, then move. I nodded slowly. Strategy, patience, observation. That spark in my chest, the one that hadn't died despite the betrayal, flared brighter. I realized I didn't have to beg, I didn't have to yell, I didn't have to crash and burn. I could be smarter, better, calculated. Later that night, I called Emily. I don't want to hear it, I said when she answered. I want to explain. No, I said firmly. I don't need explanations. I need space. You made your choice. I'm making mine. What choice? She asked, voice trembling. The choice to take control of my life, I said, surprising even myself with the calm in my voice. The choice to stop being the man who bends when others break him. The choice to rebuild, without you and Ryan in the center of it. There was silence on the other end. Then, Matt. No, I said again. I've said what I needed. Goodbye. I hung up, feeling lighter, though the ache in my chest remained. It wasn't about hating them anymore. It was about reclaiming myself. At work the next day, I started paying attention in a new way. I noticed every detail, every conversation, every move Ryan had been careless with. Emails he sent, mistakes he made, little slips that revealed arrogance and complacency. He had underestimated me completely. And that underestimation was my advantage. I approached Mr. Hale, one of the senior executives I respected but rarely spoke to. Can I ask your advice? I said, keeping my tone casual. Of course, he replied, studying me carefully. I need to navigate a situation, I said, choosing my words carefully. I can't discuss it fully, but I need to regain control. Strategically, not emotionally. Any advice? He nodded slowly. Patience is everything. Power is never in the first strike. Observation is your weapon. Calm, restraint, they're more powerful than anger. Never show your hand too soon. I listened, soaking in every word. It was almost as if he was giving me permission to be methodical, to be deliberate. That night, I went home with a plan forming in my mind, quiet but precise. Emily tried to call again. I didn't answer. Ryan sent a text. I ignored it. And for the first time in weeks, I felt clarity. The fog of betrayal, shame, and grief had lifted just enough to see the path ahead. I made small changes. I started logging every interaction I had with both of them. Notes, emails, messages, observations. I wasn't acting yet. I was preparing. The power in preparation was intoxicating. I met Mark for lunch a few days later. You're different, he said, examining my face. More focused. I like it. I don't want to just survive, I said, leaning forward. I want to take control. I want them to see that their betrayal didn't win. That I am stronger than they imagined. Good, he said, smiling. Now remember, this isn't about getting even. It's about proving to yourself that you can rise above. That's the only revenge that matters. I nodded. His words cemented what I already felt. I didn't need to yell, fight, or plead. I only needed time, patience, and strategy. That night, I walked through the apartment, empty and silent. I paused in front of the broken coffee cup from that morning weeks ago. I touched the jagged edge. It was sharp, dangerous, like the pain I'd felt. But it also reminded me of something else, resilience. A reminder that even broken pieces could be gathered, arranged, and used as a foundation. I whispered to myself, they think they've taken everything. They're wrong. I haven't lost. Not yet. And I meant it. I spent the next days observing quietly, letting every small interaction, every careless word from Ryan, every slip from Emily, register in my mind. I wasn't planning a confrontation yet. I was watching. Waiting. Calculating. Patience was my weapon, and for the first time in weeks, I felt the spark of power. Late one evening, Emily appeared at my door. "Matt, we need to talk. Please. Just 5 minutes." I opened the door but didn't invite her in. "I don't want to talk," I said, calm, controlled. "Not tonight. Not ever, maybe. You've made your choices. I'm making mine." "Please, Matt," she said, voice shaking. "I can explain everything." "You've already explained," I said. "You chose Ryan. That's explanation enough. I don't need words. I need space. And time." Her eyes filled with tears. "You're not angry?" I studied her. My heart still ached, yes, but the ache was tempered now with focus. "I'm not here to be angry. I'm here to survive. And maybe, more than survive. To thrive. You and Ryan, you've already lost that." She said nothing. Just stared. And in that silence, I realized how far I'd come. The man who once trembled, the man who begged silently for loyalty and love, he was gone. In his place stood someone new. Someone quiet, calculating, patient, and alive with a purpose that Emily and Ryan had no idea existed. I sat on the balcony later, city lights stretching before me. I whispered to the night, "I won't be broken. I will rise. And they'll watch, helpless, as I do." I didn't know the full extent of what was coming next. But I knew this, the spark of anger, betrayal, and hurt had ignited something more powerful, clarity, control, and strategy. And from now on, I would never let anyone take my life from me again. The weeks passed, and I noticed the change before anyone else did. Ryan grew sloppy, careless, and increasingly nervous. Emily's attempts to manipulate me became desperate, more transparent with each passing day. And I stayed calm, quiet, observing, preparing. I came into work one morning, coffee in hand, and saw Ryan pacing near the copier. "Everything okay?" I asked casually. He jumped slightly. Yeah, I'm fine," he said, voice tight. I raised an eyebrow. "Looks like you're having a hard time with the Henderson project again. Maybe I can help?" He shook his head, forcing a smile. "No, I've got it. Don't worry about me." I leaned against the counter, letting my gaze linger. "I wouldn't worry about me. I'd worry about yourself." He glanced at me sharply but said nothing. I could see the panic bubbling under the surface. The overconfidence that had carried him for so long was eroding. And it was my doing, though they didn't know it yet. Emily tried her usual charm the next evening. She showed up at my apartment, knocking softly. "Matt, please," she said, voice trembling. "I need to explain. Just 5 minutes." I opened the door, arms crossed, calm, composed. "Explain?" I echoed, voice steady. Emily, you've explained already. Twice. That's enough. I know I made a mistake. But I love you, she pleaded, eyes wide, searching for a crack in my resolve. You love me? I asked, stepping aside to let her in, but I didn't move. Love? Love doesn't destroy trust. Love doesn't betray. And it certainly doesn't use my best friend to do it. Her eyes welled up. I thought. I don't know. I didn't mean. Stop. My voice was calm, colder than she expected. I'm not here to beg or forgive. I'm here to observe. Every misstep, every word you say, every desperate attempt, you're digging your own fall. And I'm watching. She swallowed hard, realizing the game had shifted. The woman who had once held power over me, who had wielded charm and guilt like weapons, she had no idea who I had become. At the office, Ryan made a fatal mistake. He sent a critical email to the wrong client, panicking when the response came back immediately. I watched him squirm, trying to cover it up with clumsy excuses. Matt, did you see that? He asked, voice trembling. Yes, I said calmly. I saw it. But it's okay. We all make mistakes. His eyes widened. Mistakes? That's going to cost the company. I'm sure you'll figure it out, I said lightly, masking my satisfaction. But maybe next time, double-check your work before sending it out. It saves a lot of stress. He nodded, swallowing hard, as if he'd realized that his confidence was gone and that I wasn't the man he had taken for granted. I let him stew in it. That was the beginning of his unraveling. Emily's personal life started to collapse too. She came to me one evening, desperate, whispering, Matt, please. I made a mistake. I can fix this. I can change. I studied her, seeing every fear and guilt etched into her expression. Fix it? I asked softly, almost mockingly. Emily, you've lost control. You think you can manipulate me with words, but I'm beyond that now. I've learned patience. Observation. And you're slipping faster than you realize. She pressed her hands together, trembling. Matt, don't let this destroy you. Please. I'm not destroyed, I said, calm, measured. I'm learning. I'm watching. And one day, the consequences will catch up with you both. That day is coming. And when it does, I won't be angry. I'll just be ready. Her face fell. The power she once had over me was gone. She realized, in that instant, that she was no longer in control. I was. Quietly, patiently, methodically, I had become the one holding the reins. I began using subtle strategies at work. Small suggestions, careful interventions. Mark, who had become my confidant, noticed my shift. You've changed, he said one day. You're not just watching anymore. You're influencing. Yes, I admitted. But subtly. No one can see me coming. They think I'm still the same. But I'm not. Every mistake Ryan makes, every slip Emily shows. I'll be there, quietly steering the outcome. You're playing a dangerous game, Mark said. Only if I lose focus, I replied. But I won't. Not now. Not ever again. One afternoon, Ryan came to me, pale and shaking. Matt. I need help. I can't fix this on my own. I leaned back, calm, observing. I can help. But only if you're honest with me. Only if you take responsibility for your mistakes. He swallowed hard. I've messed up. Everything. Yes, I said softly. You have. And now, you'll have to face the consequences. He blinked. Consequences? Yes, I said. And I'll be here, watching, making sure you learn the hard way. You've underestimated me, Ryan. That's your first mistake. And you'll keep making them until it's too late. Emily's world started spiraling in parallel. Gossip at work, whispers among friends, subtle betrayals from people she thought were loyal, they all converged. She came to me once, crying, begging. Matt, you have to help me. Please. I shook my head. No. This isn't about help. This is about consequences. Every choice has consequences. You chose him over me. You chose betrayal over loyalty. Now you live with the aftermath. Her eyes widened, a mix of fear and disbelief. You're not angry? I'm beyond anger, I said. I'm focused. Calm. Patient. And I'm watching. Everything you've built, everything you've taken for granted, is crumbling. And you can't stop it. The more I watched, the more I realized that power wasn't about confrontation. It was about patience, precision, and letting them unravel themselves. I stayed calm while their mistakes piled up, using observation as my weapon. Ryan's confidence eroded completely. Emails sent wrong, deadlines missed, client complaints piling up. He tried to cover it with excuses, but everyone noticed. Even Emily, in her panic, saw the cracks forming. One evening, Ryan approached me, voice trembling. Matt, please. I can fix this. I'll do anything. I looked at him calmly. You don't get to do anything. You made your choice. You broke trust. You've done the damage. Now, you live with the results. He sank into the chair across from me, shaking. I didn't move. I didn't need to. The power had shifted. Quietly, invisibly, I had become the one in control. The betrayers, the manipulators, they were powerless. Emily tried one last attempt, a desperate plea. Matt. I love you. I can change. We can fix this. I smiled faintly, cold but controlled. Love doesn't fix betrayal, Emily. Patience, observation, and consequences do. You'll learn that soon enough. Her face fell. She realized she had no leverage, no power, no way to manipulate me. I had become untouchable. Calm. Focused. The storm I once feared had transformed me into something else entirely. That night, I sat on my balcony, city lights stretching before me. Ryan's and Emily's mistakes had piled up, their arrogance stripped away by their own hands. I whispered to the night, you thought you had me. You thought betrayal would destroy me. But it's made me stronger. And now, the power is mine. I didn't know what the next step would be yet. I didn't know how far I would take it. But I knew this, the fire of betrayal had turned into something controlled, patient, deadly in its quietness. And when the time came, they would see it. They would see how completely the tables had turned. The feeling of power was intoxicating. I wasn't acting out of revenge yet, not the hot, immediate kind. No, this was something quieter, sharper, deliberate. Every mistake Ryan and Emily made, every slip in judgment, fed the slow unraveling of their world. And I was in the perfect position to watch. It started at work. Ryan had a meeting with a big client, the kind that could make or break his reputation. I wasn't invited, of course, but I was close enough to hear the tension in his voice on the phone. "No," I said. "No," he shouted, frustration breaking through his usual facade. "I told you the numbers were wrong." I sipped my coffee, pretending not to listen, but I heard every word. His panic was sweet, almost cathartic. He had built himself up on arrogance, and now the foundation was crumbling. Mark walked by and nudged me. "He's in trouble." "I know," I said softly, smiling just slightly. "And he doesn't even know how deep it's going to go." Later, Emily tried to contact me again. Her texts were pleading, each one more desperate than the last. "Matt, I need to talk. Please. I can fix this." I didn't mean. I ignored them all. Instead, I focused on my work, my strategy, my observation. Every small misstep, every careless glance, every underestimation on their part added to my growing advantage. Ryan stumbled again during a team meeting. Numbers were off, clients were confused, and he tried to cover it with excuses. "It's just a miscalculation," he said nervously. "I'll fix it." I interrupted casually, maybe double-checking before sending might help next time. The room went silent. Everyone looked at him. His face flushed red. I leaned back, observing, letting him squirm. Every mistake he made was like watching dominoes fall, one by one. Emily came over one night, breaking her own rules. She knocked on my door, trembling. "Matt, please. I can explain. Just 5 minutes." "5 minutes won't change what you've done," I said, keeping my tone calm, almost detached. "I love you," she whispered, desperation in her voice. "I made a mistake, but I can fix it. Please. Just let me try." "Love doesn't fix betrayal," I said softly. "I've learned patience. Observation. And every step you take now, every desperate move, is only digging your own grave. You'll see." Her eyes widened. For the first time, I saw fear, genuine fear. She realized I was no longer the man she could manipulate. She was powerless. At work, Ryan's errors escalated. He sent an important presentation to the wrong client, then tried to cover it up with half-truths and lies. I overheard a conversation with his assistant. "You need to fix this," she said firmly. "It's bad. Really bad." I know," he stammered. "I can't. I walked by casually. Maybe asking for help sooner would save a lot of stress," I said lightly. He froze. "Matt. Do what you need to do," I interrupted, voice calm. "Just remember, mistakes have consequences." Emily's desperation became more transparent. She tried subtle manipulation, small gifts, texts meant to tug at guilt, emails meant to appear innocent but full of emotion. One afternoon, I received a coffee she had left at my desk. A small note attached, "Matt. I'm sorry. Please talk to me." I stared at it for a long moment. Then I crumpled it and threw it in the trash. The gesture, intended to sway me, only reminded me of the distance I had put between us. I wasn't angry. I was focused. Observing. Patient. Ryan approached me one morning, pale and trembling. "Matt. I can fix this. Please, let me explain." I shook my head. "You don't get to explain, Ryan. You chose arrogance over caution, betrayal over loyalty. You dug your own pit, and now you're in it. I'm just watching. Quietly. Calmly. Patiently." He swallowed hard. "Please. I can make it right. You can't, I said softly. You lost the trust. You lost control. You'll see the consequences soon enough. Emily tried one last attempt at charm. She appeared in the lobby of my building, clutching her bag, eyes wide. Matt, please. I can change. We can fix this. I made a mistake. I studied her calmly. You've made your choice, I said. Now you live with the consequences. Everything you've taken for granted, every misstep, every slip, it's all falling apart. And I'm not doing it. You are. Her face fell, understanding finally settling in. She had no leverage, no charm, no power. The tables had turned, and she knew it. I started noticing the ripple effect. Ryan's coworkers whispered about his mistakes. Emily's friends noticed her growing desperation, her once confident demeanor replaced by anxiety. And I remained the calm eye of the storm. Observant. Strategic. Patient. Mark noticed my shift. You're untouchable, he said one day. Not untouchable, I said, sipping my coffee. Just in control. The rest, they'll crumble themselves. He nodded. It's impressive. Almost surgical. Exactly, I said. Surgical. Quiet. Patient. Precise. That's how you win without ever showing your hand. One night, Emily came to my apartment again. Matt, please. I can fix this. I can be better. I need you. I didn't invite her in. I didn't flinch. I simply said, you can't fix what's broken, Emily. Every desperate step you take now, every attempt at manipulation, every slip, you're speeding up the consequences that are already coming. And I'm ready. Her eyes widened with fear. She realized she had no control, no leverage. She wasn't powerful here. I was. And that was the point. At work, Ryan's mistakes culminated in a critical error. A client threatened to pull a major contract, citing incompetence. He was panicking, pacing, sweating. He approached me, desperate. Matt, please. I can fix this. Just help me. I shook my head, calm, measured. You made your choice. You've done the damage. You live with the consequences. He swallowed hard. But the project? Yes, I said. The project, the trust, your career. Everything. Consequences aren't optional. He sank into a chair, realization hitting him like a hammer. The arrogance, the confidence, the sense of untouchability, it had evaporated. He was powerless. Emily tried one last time, sending me a frantic text, Matt, please. I'm begging. Just talk to me. I didn't reply. Not even once. Instead, I watched as the ripple effect continued. Colleagues whispered, friends questioned loyalty, minor mistakes turned into major disasters. Ryan and Emily were unraveling. Slowly, methodically, inevitably. That night, I sat on my balcony, city lights stretching before me. I whispered to the night, you thought betrayal would destroy me. You thought your arrogance would leave me broken. You thought your charm would control me. You were wrong. The power has shifted. And now, you watch. I sipped my coffee, calm, collected, and fully aware that every mistake, every slip, every desperate attempt by them was a step closer to the inevitable conclusion. They had underestimated me. They had assumed grief and anger would make me rash, desperate. They had assumed I was weak. They were wrong. I leaned back, letting the night air wash over me. The fire of betrayal that had once consumed me had transformed. It was no longer anger. No longer grief. It was control. Observation. Patience. Precision. Power. And when the time came, I would act. But not out of desperation. Not out of rage. Out of calculated certainty. Ryan and Emily were already falling. I had just to watch and wait. And I knew, without a shred of doubt, that when the final moment arrived, they wouldn't see it coming. It all came to a head faster than I expected. Ryan had been spiraling for weeks, and Emily's desperation had reached a fever pitch. Every misstep they made, every glance of panic, every whispered conversation, I had logged it all, catalogued it, watched patiently. And now, it was time for the reckoning. I arrived at the office that morning with an unusual calm. Mark was already there, eyes curious. "You seem different today," he said. "I am different," I said casually, sipping my coffee. "I've been patient. Observant. And now, I act." Mark's eyebrows shot up. "Act? What do you mean?" "You'll see," I replied, voice low, controlled. "Everything they've done, every mistake, every lie, every slip, they're going to face consequences. And I'll make sure it's clear that trust isn't something to be thrown away lightly." He nodded slowly. "I like it. But, careful. Don't let the fire consume you." "I'm not the one being consumed," I said. "I'm the one in control." The first move was subtle. A casual suggestion in a meeting, almost innocuous, but precise. I recommended Ryan's mismanaged project be reassigned temporarily. The higher-ups agreed, it was a rational decision, and no one questioned it. Ryan's face went pale, and he looked at me like I had just pulled the rug out from under him. "Matt, what are you doing?" he whispered, voice trembling. I smiled faintly. "What I should have done weeks ago. Making sure consequences are inevitable when trust is broken." He swallowed hard. This isn't fair." "Fair?" I echoed. "Fair has nothing to do with it. Responsibility does. And you've abdicated yours." Emily arrived at the office later that day, flustered. She tried to corner me in the lobby. "Matt, please. Just talk to me." I shook my head, calm, measured. "I've been talking. You just weren't listening. Every move, every choice, every betrayal, you've set this in motion. And now you watch as it unfolds." Her face turned pale. You're serious?" "Completely," I said. "I'm not angry. I'm in control. And the consequences are yours to bear." By mid-afternoon, Ryan's panic escalated. Clients were calling, emails were being forwarded to management, and his reputation was eroding in real time. He approached me again, desperation dripping from every word. "Matt, please. I can fix this. I'll do anything," he begged. "Anything?" I asked softly, voice calm. "Anything won't erase betrayal. Anything won't undo incompetence. Anything won't undo the mistakes you've made." He sank into a chair, trembling. "Please. I just need guidance. Tell me what to do." I leaned back, observing. "Guidance? I can give you that. But you need to understand something first. Every choice has consequences. And your choices have led you here. This is the result of your own actions." Emily didn't wait to see the results. She tried one last desperate measure, appearing at my apartment that evening, clutching a small bouquet of flowers. "Matt, please," she whispered. "I can change. I can fix everything. Just give me a chance." I studied her quietly, every fear, every misstep, every attempt at manipulation on full display. "You've had chances, Emily. Countless chances. And you've blown every one. You've chosen betrayal, deception, and arrogance. Now you watch as the consequences catch up." Her eyes widened, terror beginning to replace her confidence. "Consequences? What are you talking about?" I smiled faintly, cold but controlled. "Everything you've built, everything you've manipulated, everything you've thought was safe, it's unraveling. And I'm the one orchestrating nothing. I'm simply letting your choices play out. Slowly, methodically, inevitably." By the end of the week, the shift was undeniable. Ryan had been reassigned to a less critical department. His arrogance replaced by anxiety, his confidence shattered. Emily's social circle noticed her desperation, whispering behind her back, and she began losing credibility with mutual friends. I watched it all silently, sitting in the corner of my favorite cafe, drinking coffee, pretending to read a newspaper. They didn't notice me. They didn't see me. But I saw everything. Mark sat across from me, shaking his head. "I can't believe how quickly this is happening. You didn't even lift a finger. Just observation and patience." "I didn't need to lift a finger," I said. "They did it to themselves. I only had to wait and let the dominoes fall." Emily's final plea came on a Tuesday afternoon. She sent a frantic text, "Matt, please. I'm begging. Just talk to me. I'll do anything to make it right." I didn't reply. Not a word. Instead, I walked into the office, calm and composed, and observed the unfolding chaos. Ryan was trembling as he presented a corrected report, stumbling over his words, sweat beading on his forehead. He knew the damage was irreversible. He knew I was watching. "Matt. I'm sorry," he whispered when I passed his desk. I nodded, quietly satisfied. "Yes, you are. But apologies don't erase consequences. You'll live with this. You'll learn." Emily's presence became a shadow in the background. Every attempt to manipulate, every charm offensive, every tearful plea was met with silence. She realized, finally, that she had no power. That control had shifted entirely. One evening, she came to the apartment once more, hoping perhaps to provoke anger or forgiveness. Instead, I greeted her calmly, with a faint smile. "Emily," I said softly. "I don't hate you. I don't even resent you. I'm simply in control now. Every choice you made, every lie you told, every betrayal, you're facing the results. And I am untouchable." Her face fell, understanding finally settling in. She was powerless. And I wasn't just observing anymore, I was guiding the outcome. The next day at work, I initiated a subtle meeting with management, pointing out inconsistencies, errors, and missed opportunities in Ryan's department. I phrased it as helpful advice, professional observation. The higher-ups agreed, and Ryan's missteps were formally documented. He turned to me, panic in his eyes. "Matt, what are you doing?" "Helping," I said softly. "Helping you face reality. Helping everyone see the results of careless arrogance." His face drained of color. The arrogance that had once defined him was gone, replaced by terror. Emily's social downfall paralleled Ryan's professional collapse. Mutual friends distanced themselves, colleagues whispered, and she could feel the isolation pressing in. One evening, she called, voice trembling. "Matt. I don't know what to do," she admitted. "I can't fix this. I've lost everything." I listened quietly. "Yes," I said softly. "You've lost everything. And that is the consequence of your choices. Every betrayal, every lie, every step you took to hurt me, look where it brought you." She fell silent, tears flowing, finally understanding that she had no power, no leverage, no way to manipulate me. She was exposed. Vulnerable. And I had orchestrated nothing, merely observed. Ryan tried one last desperate plea during a company meeting. "Matt. I can correct this. Just give me a chance." I leaned back in my chair, calm, measured. "Your chance has passed. Every mistake you've made, every lapse in judgment, every betrayal, you'll face the consequences. And you will do so while understanding that I am beyond your manipulation, beyond your charm, beyond your reach." He sat down, defeated, fully aware that the tables had turned. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The control was mine. The power had shifted completely. By Friday, everything was clear. Ryan had lost credibility, Emily had lost social standing, and I, quietly, patiently, methodically, had reclaimed my life. I was untouchable. In control. Calm. Focused. Mark came to me, shaking his head with admiration. "You've completely turned the tables. I've never seen anything like it." "I didn't need to fight," I said. "I only needed patience, observation, and letting consequences run their course. They were the architects of their own downfall." He nodded slowly. "And Emily?" "She's learning," I said, sipping my coffee, eyes calm. "Like Ryan. Slowly. Painfully. But inevitably." That evening, I sat on the balcony, city lights stretching before me. Silence filled the air, and for the first time in months, I felt peace. Not joy. Not triumph. But clarity. Control. Power. I whispered to myself, they thought betrayal would destroy me. They thought arrogance would blind them. They thought they could manipulate me. They were wrong. The power has shifted. And now, they watch. I watched the horizon, the night calm, knowing that the storm of betrayal had passed. The aftermath was mine to observe, mine to control, and mine to survive. I didn't need revenge anymore. I didn't need anger or confrontation. The consequences, their mistakes, their unraveling, had done everything for me. I had learned patience. I had learned observation. And most importantly, I had learned that control was more powerful than rage. Ryan and Emily would never forget what happened. Not because I shouted or yelled. Not because I sought vengeance. But because they had underestimated me. And underestimation was their undoing. I whispered softly to the night, I am untouchable. I am calm. I am in control. And you will watch, powerless, as your world collapses. For the first time, I smiled, not out of anger, not out of satisfaction, but out of clarity. The betrayal had forged me into someone stronger. Someone who could survive anything. Someone who could take control and never let it go again. And in that moment, I realized, I had not just survived. I had risen. The aftermath of everything was strange. Quiet. Heavy with tension, but also freeing. Ryan was broken at work, Emily isolated socially, and finally, I could breathe again. But there was no celebration, no victory lap. The sense of control I had fought for was subtle, internal, and far more satisfying than any loud revenge could have been. I arrived at the office that morning, coffee in hand, and noticed the tension thick in the air. Ryan's desk was quiet. He avoided eye contact, muttering under his breath. Emily had sent another message that went unanswered. The chaos I had orchestrated passively was now fully visible, and I was untouchable in the eye of it. Mark caught up to me in the lobby. "You've changed everything," he said quietly. "Completely. You didn't even touch them, and look at the fallout. It's total." "I just observed," I said softly. "Every action they took, every misstep, every betrayal, they were the architects of their own downfall. I only needed patience, focus, and control." He shook his head. "You're impressive. Ruthless, but impressive." I smiled faintly. "Not ruthless. Just aware. Calm. Patient. And done being anyone's victim." Ryan approached me later that afternoon, hesitation in every movement. "Matt, can we talk?" I looked up from my reports, calm and collected. "We can talk. But understand this, I'm not here to argue, not here to forgive, not here to rescue you. Your choices have consequences. That's the only topic." He swallowed hard. I know. I messed up. I see that now. I'm sorry." "Yes," I said softly. "You are. But apologies can't undo what's been done. They can't restore trust or confidence. You're learning that the hard way. And that is your justice." He hung his head, finally accepting it. The arrogance, the self-assuredness that had blinded him before gone. All that remained was humility forced by circumstance, a lesson learned too late. Emily's final confrontation was unavoidable. She came to my apartment that evening, eyes wide with desperation. "Matt, please," she whispered. "I can explain. I can make it right. I need you." I stood calmly, arms crossed. "Emily, it's too late. Every choice you made, every betrayal, every manipulation, has led to this moment. And now, you watch. There's no fixing it. There's only understanding. And acceptance. That's justice." Her voice trembled. "Justice? You're not angry?" "I'm not angry," I said softly, almost gently. "I'm beyond anger. I'm calm, observant, and in control. That's what you can't take from me. And that's the lesson you'll carry forever, the one you never taught me, but one I learned the hard way: actions have consequences." She blinked, tears welling in her eyes. "So, what now?" "Now?" I echoed. "Now, you live with what you've done. Quietly. Slowly. Every choice you made has its echo. And I move forward. Untouched, aware, and finally free." She fell silent. For the first time, she understood the full weight of her actions. And I didn't need to shout, beg, or force the lesson. It was hers to feel, internalize, and regret. The days that followed were oddly peaceful. Ryan kept his head down, Emily withdrew socially, and I thrived. Not in a loud, dramatic way, but in a calm, controlled way. I walked into the office, held meetings, spoke to colleagues, all while silently observing the slow consequences that had been set in motion. Mark noticed the difference in me. "You're different," he said quietly over lunch. "Calmer, stronger. Not just because of them, something changed in you. Yes, I admitted, sipping my coffee. Everything they did, every betrayal, every manipulation, forced me to see what I truly am capable of. I wasn't broken. I was awakened. Stronger, sharper, aware. And I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm thriving. He smiled. I'm proud of you, man. Honestly. You turned the worst possible situation into something remarkable. I nodded. It wasn't easy. It took patience, observation, and restraint. Anger would have destroyed me. But calm, control, that's what allowed me to reclaim my life. Emily tried to text one last time. Matt. I've lost everything. I'm sorry. I hope you can forgive me. I didn't reply. Instead, I watched the city skyline from my apartment, sipping my coffee, and whispered to myself, forgiveness isn't necessary. Justice is enough. And control is everything. Ryan came to my office one final time, hands trembling, voice low. Matt. I can't undo anything. I see that now. I'll work harder. I'll fix what I can. Please, guide me. I looked at him calmly. I won't guide you. That was never my role. You were the one who acted carelessly, betrayed trust, and let arrogance blind you. Your path forward is yours alone. Learn from it. Accept it. That's all the guidance you'll ever need. He nodded slowly, realizing he had no shortcuts, no one to save him from the consequences of his actions. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt clarity. Calm. Peace. Emily showed up one last time, sitting in my living room, trembling. Matt. I've lost everything. Friends, respect. I don't know who I am without you. I stayed calm, seated across from her. You're not learning about me anymore, Emily. You're learning about yourself. And that's the lesson. You made choices. You betrayed trust. You acted recklessly. And now, you see the consequences. You are accountable to them. I've stepped out of the chaos. I've reclaimed control. And you live with the results. Her tears fell silently. She understood. No manipulation, no charm, no words could change the reality she had created. And that realization was the most powerful justice there could be. I spent that night on the balcony, city lights stretching endlessly, sipping coffee, and reflecting on everything. The fire of betrayal had passed, leaving only a calm, controlled blaze of awareness. I wasn't bitter anymore. I wasn't angry. I was whole. Mark texted me later, they've realized, haven't they? I smiled faintly and replied, yes. And I'm finally free. The lessons were clear. Betrayal, manipulation, arrogance, they all have consequences. And patience, observation, control, these are the tools that rebuild a life stronger than before. I had been broken, yes, but only temporarily. The fire that once consumed me had forged me into someone stronger, wiser, and untouchable. Ryan's professional life stabilized eventually, though never quite reaching the heights he once assumed he could. Every misstep had been catalogued, every error remembered. And I observed quietly, letting consequences reinforce lessons without ever needing to strike. Emily withdrew socially, her friendships fractured, her charm ineffective. She reached out one final time, not to manipulate, not to charm, but perhaps to seek closure. I didn't reply. She learned the lesson silently, painfully. Mark came by one evening, observing the quiet satisfaction I carried. "You've mastered it," he said softly. "Control without rage, patience without weakness. You've taken the worst situation and turned it into strength." "Yes," I admitted. "I've learned that true power isn't in confrontation or anger. It's in observation, patience, and letting consequences unfold." The betrayal didn't break me. It forged me. He nodded slowly. "And Emily, and Ryan?" "They've learned," I said quietly. Silently, painfully. "And I've learned to rise above. To be untouchable. To reclaim my life fully." I spent the following weeks rebuilding, not in revenge, not in anger, but in control. Every decision, every action, every step forward was deliberate, calculated, patient. The scars remained, but they were reminders, not wounds, but markers of strength. One night, I walked past the apartment building, city lights reflecting in the windows. I whispered to myself, "I am stronger than betrayal. I am beyond manipulation. I am calm, aware, and in control. And I've survived. Not just survived. I've risen." The weight lifted finally. I didn't need closure from them, didn't need apologies, didn't need recognition. The calm awareness, the control, and the mastery of my own life were enough. Ryan and Emily had faced consequences. The chaos they created had returned to them, fully. And I moved forward with clarity, strength, and quiet satisfaction. For the first time, I smiled genuinely, not out of rage, not out of revenge, but out of peace. I had reclaimed my life. I had taken control. And no betrayal could ever touch me again.